live, or we should be. Hey guys, I hope y'all can hear Eric. First things first, because we've done this a couple of times. We've played this game a couple
Only
of
a
times
couple.
where I
Only a
hop into this live stream and I do the big old intro and then I read 500 comments. I can't hear Eric. So, Eric, please say something.
We're back. I'm doing a little bit of an audio check, so that's why I'm looking a little weird.
Can y'all hear this man? Because I can hear him very much. I can hear him very well. I hope that y'all can hear
Yeah,
this
we're
man.
good. We're good.
Yeah, that's great. So, hi guys, again. Now onto the intro. We decided to talk about your hot takes, your worst A Song of Ice and Fire hot takes, and yeah, it's gonna be an interesting one.
We got some takes.
We got some takes. So, Eric, let's jump right into it.
Sounds good. All right, this is from the BookTube Advocate. Check out his channel if you want some more Song of Ice and Fire content. But his hot take was the real hero of A Song of Ice and Fire is Hot Pie. He left the plot early, started a successful bakery, stayed alive, and probably has the most stable mental health of any character. He doesn't need an iron throne when he's sitting on a crusty sourdough throne of croissants.
Agreed. Yeah, spot on. Definitely one of the takes of all time.
I think that genuinely, this is the best hot take probably that we're going to talk about today.
I think it's the judging by the other ones, this one is sane because we got a lot of insane ones.
Yeah, this is pretty tame.
So let's just continue with the next one because a channel.
Not much more to say.
I don't think so. Is there? You want to say?
I mean, he's got great. He's living. He's happy. You know, and that's all you need.
I'm happy that he's happy. You know.
Yeah.
I'm always happy for people getting some kind of happy ending in this world because not many characters get to live out their days as, you know.
Agreed.
As like a regular human being, especially in the Riverlands, because these people always have a blast, as you know.
Riverlands is a good time.
So moving on, the next one is very interesting. It's by a channel of Ice and Fire, who's by the way pretty new. A Song of Ice and Fire channel who does his own animation stuff. Basically a resurrected version of Fantasy Haven's. Great guy. And he says the Mad King did nothing wrong in Robert's Rebellion, during Robert's Rebellion.
Ricky, you want to go first? Or I got a log.
Oh, I'll let you go ahead, man.
All right. So, as someone who's done a Robert's Rebellion series, and I've basically spent 3 or 4 long videos on Aerys and his psychology, Aerys is somebody that I think he starts out, decently. He's kind of a guy who has a lot of big dreams for him being king. Like, he wants to expand the borders of the North and gain more land. And he has all these dreams that aren't really feasible. It's what makes Tywin such a good hand for him. But he's somebody that he goes off the deep end quite quickly, just based on a lot of things. Paranoia. I think Varys whispering in his ears was not a good thing. Being jealous of attention and stuff like that. And so by the time we get to him, Robert's Rebellion era, he does a lot of things that are wrong. Like, you can kind of justify the idea of, okay, well, Brandon comes to King's Landing and he's saying, oh, he's going to kill Rhaegar and all this stuff. Like, can't really threaten the crown prince. It's not a good look if your heir is not doing anything about it. But then he goes a step too far. Like, imprisoning Brandon is one thing, teach him a lesson, whatever. But then you kill Brandon and his father in pretty cruel ways. Then, for some reason, decide that gives you justification to claim Ned and Robert should also be killed. It's just like, you can't really justify a lot of his actions, like, in terms of they were extremely cruel, extremely just, I don't even know what to say, like, just horrible. So like I can get behind that there were some things that you can justify with Eris, but the way he went about it, I think for the most part was just wasn't. But Ricky, what do you think?
I don't think he really means that one. To be honest, maybe there's a little bit of trickery going on, because he phrased it during Robert's rebellion, meaning that, you know, the killings of Brandon, and yeah, I think he phrased it funny. But the Mad King is an interesting character. I'd love to do a video about him. I never really talked about him on the channel. I think the time that he spent in Duskendale, also really
Yes,
really
yeah.
fucked him up, and that's
It was kind
something
of like
that's
the final dagger, if anything, of like pushing him over the edge.
yeah, and that's something that I would actually love to see on screen. But I don't know. You know how these adaptations are going, so
Yep.
not really a fan of them anymore. All right, let's move on to the next one.
I want to give one closing statement before we move on, though. Just because people in chat are talking about it, I think a better hot take would be if you wanted to, if this is serious or not. I think a better hot take is the Mad King. I think he's overhated in terms of like, I don't think people necessarily understand why he becomes that person. I think people that are maybe more entry level into the series just assume he was just mad from the get go. Like he is a very complex and interesting character how he gets to that point. So that would be my closing argument for that. But
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's fair.
So moving on, we have a number of these. These all came from Violet, so I guess we will tackle them one at a time. But the first one is George R. R. Martin loves the scouring of the Shire, and after the others are dealt with, Euron is going to cause the equivalent of that in his books. What do you think about that, Ricky? Because I know Euron's one of your favorites.
So the Scouring of the Shire. I'm not a big Lord of the Rings guy. What's that again? It's
So
like the end
scouring of
part where
yeah,
Frodo leaves and everyone just goes off
so
with that ship, or
the general idea here, Ricky, is that okay? So Frodo and everybody they go off to war. They go off to take the ring,
Hmm.
and it's kind of supposed to be that like a PTSD kind of reference type idea where like war came back to their home and like they have to fight for their home. So it's kind of the idea like everybody goes maybe north to fight the others, all of that stuff. And while that was, going on, Euron kind of takes over, maybe brings destruction to the rest of Westeros type idea. That's generally where I think Violet was going this with idea.
Hmm.
And so I don't think that's a bad hot take at all that Euron is going to use the threat of the others to his advantage.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so
I can
yeah.
definitely see that happening. I think we will have one King of the Ashes, like a. If I don't think, I think this is something that is obviously not really similar to Game of Thrones, but at least in the some realm of possibilities, is that after it's dealt with, there's still something that needs to be dealt with in terms of the regency,
Yeah.
or you know, who gets to rule whatever kingdoms are left. And I think Euron might be the endgame villain in that. Maybe something with him and Bran that would be neat. Something magical, like a battle of not really green seers, because I don't think Euron is necessarily a green seer, but he might have some abilities, and that could be that could be cool. Because in the show, it was so out of nowhere. They didn't really adapt any of the Ironborn, but they still kept Euron, and he was endgame, even though, you know, it was comical the way in which he went out. So I could see something like that happening. Yeah, that's
I
not really
agree.
a hot take. I think
Yeah, I don't think it's
not
at all.
judging you know, based off of what we got, all of the submissions that we got. That's pretty
Yeah.
tame.
Yeah, I would say like I would say that that's generally like what I think a lot of people think. So I won't necessarily that was a hot take. I think the next one is way more of a hot take.
Hmm.
So we'll get your thoughts on this one. But Violet's second one was Robert was in love with Ned, and he consciously or subconsciously knew the closest he'd ever be with Ned is if he were married to Lyanna. That's why he's disappointed with Lyanna if he actually knew her because he'd realized she's nothing like Ned.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. um, I don't know, man. It's one of those shipping things, right? That's
Yeah.
what people on Twitter do a lot. Nah. We can
I
leave it
mean,
at that. I think nah.
I mean, just to elaborate a little bit more. I mean, like Robert just doesn't show any tendencies towards him liking men. I mean, maybe it's something towards like Ned was just that extreme. Like we always see him whoring around with women.
Hmm.
So I do think though, like you talking about here, like he had this idealized version of what Lyanna was that she truly wasn't. So Robert's kind of in love with the idea of Lyanna, not necessarily the
Hmm.
actual person Lyanna. So I think that part like is spot on. I don't know if there's really anything to say that Robert was in love with Ned
Maybe
personally.
he was, the way I took it is he was, and I think that that's something that Game of Thrones season one did really well. Is he was in love with the idea of Lyanna, with the memory of Lyanna, and that shit fades, over time. You lose, um,
Yeah,
you're in love with the idea, but not really the person anymore, which is something that's that was tackled really well on the show, I think.
agreed.
We have a few hot takes. Let's do a few from the chat as well.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Preston Nelson says, hot take: Tyrion and Moonboy were switched at birth. Tyrion is an Aerys the second bastard. Yeah. I always thought that Tyrion is a time traveling fetus. So I think that's wrong, but it's an interesting idea. Maybe he is Aerys's time traveling fetus. Is that maybe it's a combination of both?
Um, no comment. I'll read one from the chat. This was by some guy named Eric Gentry. Hot take: Voice of Old Town really is Team Smallfolk, and that was
That's
followed
not a
up
hot
by
take.
three Goblins
It's not
retweets.
a
What
hot
an
take.
insightful hot take.
And you can't just fucking
Um,
submit them yourself.
I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of a hot take because most of the community know you're a Green supporter. So
I you know what? Fucking
I
whatever.
mean, yeah, put the light on. Put the light on.
Nah, it looks goofy. But I mean, House of the Dragon kind of turned me into a Team Green supporter on the
Heard
show.
it there.
Because what's left to support there? Where's the intrigue? I mean, it's Aegon. He's played by an amazing actor.
Agreed.
Then the Larry Strong actor is really good as well, Matthew Needham. So I think it's not really Team Green, it's Team Interesting characters. Okay, that's too hard because there are interesting characters on the other side as well. It's just that the adaptation is not really what I wanted it to be. Let's leave it there because it's gonna turn into a very long and heated discussion, and
Don't
we
worry,
have
we'll
a
talk
lot
about
of
House of
hot
the
takes.
Dragon here. Don't worry. We got some hot takes on that. But continue on, Ricky. Do you want to hit
Oh yeah, sorry.
or YouTube chat, whatever you want to
Yeah,
hit?
we have another one by Skeptical Slav. One of George R. R. Martin's biggest mistakes was to significantly expand on already bloated story with the Iron Islands and Dornish storylines. I wouldn't mind if both of them got significantly altered, with Ariane and Asha remaining as the sole POVs for each storyline. I don't think that's a hot take. I think, especially the Ironborn and especially Victarion were introduced to, he probably thought about it. Okay, so how does Dany get those ships? Okay, let's introduce this character, but in order for this to make sense or to be told in a satisfying way, I need another character there. And I think it was him having so much emphasis on these characters from Dorne and the Iron Islands is a direct result of him being having written himself into a corner. I think that's a very fair argument.
I mean, I agree. The one problem I struggle with this is that the Iron Island and the Dornish plot for A Feast for Crows, if you take those out of the book, my opinion on A Feast for Crows gets much like it's just much worse for me. Like I think those are two of my favorite plot lines. Like I have the Kingsmoot chapter is my favorite chapter of Feast for Crows, and Ariane's like coup chapters being my
Mm,
second favorite. So if you take those out, it's like, man, those are that's some of I think George's better writing in that book.
mm,
But I do agree, like we've kind of gotten to a point, and I think a lot of it is what you just talked about. It stems from, okay, George made a decision at the end of A Storm of Swords. Is Daenerys going to come over to Westeros, or is she going to stay and rule? Well, if she stays and she rules, okay, well, we now have to expand the story out to kind of, follow that as well, because the main story with the others can't really start until Daenerys is, getting on her high horse and getting to Westeros. So, you have a couple issues. One is, how does Daenerys even get to Westeros? She doesn't have a fleet right now, like you talked about.
mm.
And so, yeah, I think that there's a number of reasons as to why the story kind of expanded itself. Now, I think in A Feast for Crows, it's very necessary. I think
Mm.
especially with the young Griff plot that's going to start, and then especially with the Daenerys situation, you needed the Iron Islands and Dornish plot. I think where the bloating starts to really feel like it is A Dance with Dragons. I think there's
Yeah.
like a lot of bloating in there, a lot of world building, especially with characters like Tyrion and Quentyn in that book. So, yeah, I think that, you know, it's bloated, but I don't think it's the Dornish and the Iron Islands plots that necessarily are the bloating parts of the series.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. It's something. It's in the middle. I think the truth lies in the middle. I think
Yeah.
that but it's also fair to say that it's bloated. Um,
Yeah.
Hi, Devlin. Oh yeah, Crafty the Iron Ireland. I knew that you were gonna love this one.
Also, hi guys in chat that are just joining in, stopping in.
Oh,
Um,
Papa Khan is the Frey supporter, right?
yes.
Well, he just said that I'm mean and I'm not right. I'm wrong.
Well,
Well, how
you
about
know,
what are you saying about a red wedding 2.0? Are you looking forward to that? The whole
oh god,
house getting
oh
assassinated?
god, oh, it's all starting. The house is falling apart. Let's just move on. Let's just
Hmm,
move on. Let's get away from the tension. Going back to YouTube, we had a couple more from Violet, and I think that her last two are specifically interesting.
hmm.
So, in relation to Tytos, Tywin's father, she says Tytos is a victim of a massive smear campaign against him by Tywin and Pycelle. What do you think about that, Ricky?
I just read chat. I'm sorry. Could you repeat the last bit?
Okay, so Tytos is a victim of a massive smear campaign against him by Tywin and Pycelle.
I don't know. What lengths are you willing to go to as Tywin? Look at what he did to House Rain.
Yeah,
Would he use his father? Is the argument there that he would use his father being weak as an excuse for him to take to basically just bombard Castamere? Or
I mean, you could argue it from that point. I think there's a little bit of clarification that would help with this one, but you could also argue it from the point of the weaker that Tytos looks in terms of his legacy makes Tywin look all the more like not better necessarily, but like he just looks more accomplished. He looks like,
hmm,
oh, he took this house that was extremely weak because of his father and Tytos, and he made them the most powerful house in Westeros. So I could see it. I can see the rationale. I just don't know if there's enough that we know in the story to say yes or no on that. Now we know Pycelle is a big Tywin guy. He basically lusts after Tywin. But they're
hmm.
just I don't know. I feel like there isn't enough there to make a connection that Tywin was like smearing his father.
Is that from a theory? Because I've never
I don't know. I've never
I've
heard it
never
from
heard
either.
about that. We
He
are
just kind of
Frey loyalists, and these are my people. Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. I take it
okay.
back. I take it back.
So last one, and then we can head over to X if you'd like,
Hmm.
Ricky. Daeron the Daring isn't a good person or an interesting character like many people try to make him out to be. All he does is burn people, sack a city, facilitating the I'm not gonna say that word because it might not be viewed well on YouTube and might you know of countless adults and children and die in a tent. If you're the head of an army, everything your army does is on you, whether you like it or not. That's a very interesting conversation at the end of it, I think specifically.
Uh, I don't know. It's like a lot of these characters from Fire and Blood are nothing burgers, and we heavily expand with our headcanon, and we don't really get a full sense of their personality. So I'm not too big into Daeron as well. I mean, the guy has a very goofy death, depending on how he went. I think a tent collapsing on him is very comical, and I hope that House of the Dragon would change that. So I'm not too keen on Daeron, and I don't know. Is that really a hot take? What are you saying?
The problem with the character of Daeron is we don't really know, like, he's not like the focus of that section of the book, and so we don't really know a ton about him outside of what people speculate about him and his reputation. Like, we don't really know much about his personality outside of, like, he seemed to be a very brave individual, very courageous. So I can't really go one way or the other on that. I mean, you got to look at it from this point of view. Daeron was someone at war, and war is just almost never good, really. So I don't know. And the idea that I think is the most interesting is just, if you're a commander of an army, like, how, if your subordinates do things that are out of line, like, how does that reflect onto you? And there's multiple examples within the story. Like, you look at Tywin and the way he goes about doing things that reflects in people like the Mountain and Lorch. And then you have, Ned. Well, Ned's a really honorable guy and all this stuff, but yet he has people under him like Roose Bolton, for instance. Like, I don't know. I don't think it's as simple as that.
Hmm.
But Ricky, do you have any thoughts on that you want to add to it?
I think the interesting thing is how he deals with war. And a good guy, if you want to go that route of yes, he was really good, it would be interesting to see how a good guy handles basically the equivalent of nukes and during a war situation, and how that changes him during the course of the war. The easy thing would be to just show it as like big Deus Ex Machina moments where comes out of nowhere, saves the day, which kind of does, but yeah, I guess we'll see how that
Agreed.
goes. I have the next one, right?
Yep.
All right, this next one is from Machiavelli. The Widow of the Waterfront is the biggest single chapter character. Sorry, Courtney Penrose. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Courtney Penrose is just too badass for any other character having a chance. Bring on the storm and recall if you do the name of this castle is just that's t-shirt level.
I'll be honest. I just have a bias. I hate that chapter. I think that's one of the worst chapters in the entire series. So,
Really?
I can't really say that that's the best, like, single chapter character. Like, I'd even go as far as saying, well, Creston's only in one chapter, and Creston's way better. So,
Hmm.
yeah, I don't like this hot take at all. Like, if we do a tier list, this would be at the very bottom.
Oh
I'm not a
wow.
fan. I'm not a fan of this at all.
I mean, she's very snarky, and I think that always goes over well. Kind of like Jenna Lannister.
I
Bit of
get it, but, like, I
a
just feel
bit
like the plot
sassy.
around it just doesn't, like, it just doesn't help. Like, I
Mm.
don't know. It's a mixture of, I just really dislike Tyrion's plot, especially at
Mm.
that point of the
Mm.
story, and especially being in a chapter where there's just nothing happening really, and then you have this character that, I don't know. It just kind of seems like, okay, it's kind of convenient. It's like, okay, now Jorah and Tyrion, they find some way to try and get to Daenerys, and just kind of, I don't know. It's not for me. It's just not my thing.
I think he'll flame you for that.
That's fine. That's fine. I get flamed all the time. It's fine. Moving on though. So this comes from Septa Shayna's Sapphires. I hope I said that right. But they had two that they commented. So we'll start with the one that is going to get under my skin the most. Is D&D figured out that R plus J equals J, or R plus L equals J will be wrong in the books, and when they finally asked George, he fessed up. Thoughts, Ricky?
Tell me you're a N plus A equals J supporter without telling me you're an N plus A equals J supporter. No shot at all. No, no shot at all with that being true. I'm sorry. What was it? George is mad that they figured out the real ending, and then now he's changing it because of fucking
so
a television
my
show.
Read of this is Ricky. It is that so D&D yes originally said the parents of Jon are R plus L. Somewhere throughout, making the show, and I guess maybe George giving them some details on wins or whatever, they figured out that it was actually, again, they don't implicitly say N plus A, but I'm assuming
Yeah, I mean, that's where it leads, right? What else is there? Come on now.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it's N plus A, and then then George fessed up that
it's mind-bogglingly. I don't want to say stupid because I don't want to be mean, but it's crazy to me how much they're holding on to that idea. It's like
you're still holding on.
No, you're still
Let go.
Holding on. Let go. Now it's crazy. It's kind of crazy because Papa Khan loves it.
Yeah, well, he's got some bad.
See, that's what I was gonna. See, that's what I was gonna mention now is that all of that build-up for R plus L equals J, it just wouldn't be good writing to throw that all out of the window and just act like it's not there anymore, just so you can retcon an ending. And I also don't see any reason why he should change that, even if everyone and their mothers know about it. It's still good writing. I keep talking about this in every live stream now, I think, but the first guy who actually made his homework and found out about R plus L equals J, that was brilliant, It was good. Just because it's a widely regarded theory now doesn't make it bad. It's still as good, in my opinion.
Sometimes the simple answer is just the right answer. And just think about the logic that you have to come to with a hot take like this. So the way R plus L equals J, the idea is, okay, they told George who it was. George confirmed that was R plus L because that's what's shown in the television show. George later goes on and even confirms that was the case, that they got the answer right after season 8 was done, when the show was finally over, and he's reflecting on it. So the logic you have to make for this kind of a theory is that for some reason, George just let them do whatever their take on Jon's parentage was, because they said R plus L. If that's not the case, then George just let it happen. At some point, again, it's not specified here, so we have to predict when they figured this out. It's very weird if they figured this out in season 4 or 5, and then they didn't try to go to a Ned and a Shire or anything like that, if that was the case. So once again, you have to go, okay, well, why didn't D&D ever change that if they figured that out? Kind of weird. And then if George and D&D apparently had this conversation about Jon's parentage, George then comes out with a blog post later and basically says they said the right answer, but then he was actually lying to them, and they know that now. So both sides know that
the mental gymnastics, man.
So it's just a lot of logic that just doesn't add up to me, personally, when you just have a simple explanation. So I don't know. Also, they have one more hot take as well. I'm not going to be able to comment on this one all that much because they mentioned that George doesn't share the juicy stuff with Linda and Elio. They will be mad when Wins makes their prior takes look stupid. I don't know much about Linda and Elio at all, so I can't really respond.
Very political answer right there. Great diplomacy. I think Well, what am I gonna say? Not much. Let's leave it at that. I think I'm not a fan of Linda. I think you know, they were the first hardcores among hardcores, and they were the most hardcores among the hardcores, the OG hardcores back in the day. Yeah, that's let's move on. Let's move on. It's my turn now, right?
Go ahead. Yes, your
Alrighty.
turn.
Oh my god, how do I even pronounce this? Oh, there's another handle. This one's by Nova Terra Mundus. Fire and Blood is really bland and surface level. It's one of George's laziest works, and House of the Dragon did a much better job in developing the material. I agree and disagree. I think that Fire and Blood is by far the worst book in the realm of A Song of Ice and Fire. But some of the stuff that they were doing in season 2 of House of the Dragon, there we are back again talking about it. It's just so much not A Song of Ice and Fire that I can't really sit here and say that it's better than the source material, because even though the source, I'm not too fond of Fire and Blood. Read it 2 times, and I think it will stay that way because it is very surface level. That's right, I think. But the possibilities were endless. You could have expanded, and in many cases they've done so. And now it's just the thing with Helena and stuff is just so out there that I can't really support it anymore, because it's not really what I've signed up for. So it's I agree and disagree. I think so. In my book, Fire and Blood isn't that good, and House of the Dragon isn't that good either.
Oh boy. So let's start. Let's break this down. If you would have said this like a year ago, or not, well, not before season 2 came out, I would have said, yeah, you're definitely you're on to something. You're cooking, okay? You got something going. Now, I laugh at that statement. House of the Dragon season 2, like the ending of it, I don't know what to say. It's just miles worse than Fire and Blood. I mean, for whatever you want to say about Fire and Blood, there's not as many leaps in logic and just, I don't know, character assassinations. And you might be saying, well, because in Fire and Blood, we don't get the characters as developed. And so it's kind of left up to your own interpretation of them and how you believe they are, because you have to look at their actions and figure out who they are and all that stuff. But I don't know. I have a bias. I really like Fire and Blood. So.
Well, I mean, it's fun because you can really, as Preston Nelson says here, Fire and Blood is fun to pick up every few months, read a chapter randomly, and forget about. I think that's the way I'm seeing it as well. It's something that you can pick up and just inhale in a few days. And I don't know. My favorite part about in Fire and Blood is Jaehaerys's reign. I think you know, that's my very own hot take. But I'm not too fond of those, I don't know, dragon maniacs. So it's not really. So for me personally, a deep dive into house like Baratheon, Stark, Tyrell, whatever it might be, that's more interesting to me. So whenever there's an anthology book about a history book in the style of Fire and Blood about that, I might be biased, because I think that's what happens with it. A lot of Targaryen fans who obviously are very happy that we got this book and even get a second part. Yeah.
I think Ricky, I think you also like just seeing because Jaehaerys's reign is a lot about the infrastructure actually ruling. Like the whole up until that point, none of it's really about ruling. Like Aegon's is kind of, but I don't know. I definitely see why people like Jaehaerys's reign. I personally don't like reading it all that much. Outside of I like the parts of Rhaenyra, the Queen of the West, during Jaehaerys's reign. I really like her storyline.
Yeah.
But yeah. Moving on, we have a hot take from Willie Biggs. Jeyne Westerling got that good magic love potion. She's the granddaughter of Maggie the Frog. So, do you think there was a love potion involved with Jeyne Westerling and Robb Stark?
It's a popular theory. I just don't know about Maggie the Frog. Why do we keep fucking connecting random ass characters? It's fucking why?
Yeah, I just think that it just, I don't know. I feel like it damages Robb Stark's character arc.
Why are we talking about Maggie the Frog?
They're asking, so I'm just gonna say,
okay.
it. I mean, I think that Robb Stark actually marrying Jeyne Westerling because of his own, actions and his own things adds to the character much more, makes him more interesting. Whereas if you just boil it down to a love potion, I just find that to be way less interesting. I think it's way more damaging to the character arcs.
I mean, does it really take away from Rob's from Robb? If it's love potion, goes both ways, right? No, what I mean in terms of like Jeyne having her own little scheme, and then Robb making a stupid mistake and stuff. I think that doesn't really take away from that.
I think it would be like, how do you look at Robb getting this love potion? Like, because if Robb got the love potion and that's what like completely made it to where he sleeps with Jeyne, like I feel like that takes away from him a lot, because we don't know if he didn't have the love potion in this hypothetical, does he sleep with Jeyne Westerling? Because then that would completely change the story. It's kind of how I look at it. But
yeah, I'm not saying that I buy into it. Just that
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Oh, I have the next one, right?
Yes. Go ahead.
This one's by Nova Terra Mundus as well. Okay, we've talked about that. Talking about the Dorne plot in novels could have been condensed. Sometimes it gets a bit tedious. But he or she, I'm not sure, had another one saying Catelyn Stark is the wisest Stark. And I am a big Catelyn Stark defender. I think her chapters are some of the absolute best. Wisest, though, I have not sure about that. Made a lot of mistakes that were very human early on.
I'm having a good think now. Like, I'm trying to rationalize through, like, because Catelyn, it really depends when you ask about her giving wisdom. Because if it has something to do with her own family, or it's her in an emotional state, she's not wise at all. But if you're looking at it from a point of view of like, Catelyn is very wise in terms of things like Renly and Stannis. When she's involved with things that are really conflicts between other people, and she's just kind of there. The same idea with like the King of the North chapter in a Game of Thrones. Her logic in terms of what they should do after Ned's death is, I think, very intelligent. I'm trying to I honestly think that she might be, just based upon the fact that Jon is not the wisest character out there.
No.
Sansa is still very young and naive. Like, I think by the end of the series, she could very easily be the wisest one. Arya is very intelligent in certain regards, in terms of street smarts and stuff. Robb's not, he's not the smartest. I don't know. I think it comes down to Catelyn and Ned, and like,
it's really hard.
Ned himself can also be wise in various, certain situations, especially like warfare. Like, he's very wise in terms of being a commander and how he tries to raise his sons and things, or his daughters as well. So like, I don't know. Like,
it's a fine line.
Argue it.
It's a fine line, because Ned is regarded as stupid, which I don't think he really is.
Same.
Then again, Sansa has the most potential out of any of them.
Yeah. You can even say Bran too, because Bran's gonna have a lot of knowledge, you would assume, coming forward in the story.
Yeah. Huh.
Very tough.
It's a good one.
Really good discussion point. I really like that one.
Good one, yeah.
Moving on, we have Peach Rabbit, and they're talking about the Winds of Winter and the best chapters. They think Sam is going to have the best chapters in the Winds of Winter. Thoughts, Ricky?
Oh, I totally agree. Sam's storyline at Oldtown is the storyline that I'm looking forward to the most. I've been talking about that for years and years, and just to put that into perspective, back when Sam left the Night's Watch in the show, I was so hyped for Oldtown and everything there, and then nothing ever really came of it. So I'm still waiting for that. I'm still very, very interested to see what's going to happen there. Obviously, Battle of Ice and all that. I'm big, huge, gigantic fucking Stannis fanboy. But in terms of like the mystique and the magical aspects and the complexity, I think Old Town has a lot to offer in the Winds of Winter, especially with Euron coming in, Sarella Sand, possibly Jack and Agar. It's very, very interesting, and I can't. It could go in a lot of different ways there. That I think won't. It will be one of the biggest surprises. Something that will really surprise us is something that we aren't even talking about in Old Town.
I agree. In terms of like just trying to predict things and like what you expect from the book, like Sam's is the hard. I think it's one of the hardest to predict because, like you said, there's just so much going on. Personally, I won't say that Sam is, the POV character I'm looking forward to the most. I'm much more interested in characters like Theon, Asha, Arya, and Ariane. But I do think Sam is definitely looking to improve as a POV, and especially look at his last book, in A Feast for Crows. I think he was one of the worst, if not the worst, POV in that book. So yeah, I definitely think that he's going to get better. He's going to Old Town. How can he possibly not have bad or not? How can he possibly not have good chapters?
It's about the stuff that happens in Old Town, much more than it is about Sam as a character. I think
Agreed.
just the mystique and what will be revealed. It's the place of knowledge, and how does that play a factor going forward? Those are the kind of questions that I've been asking myself for years, and that's why I'm looking. That is the storyline that I'm looking forward to the most. So I 100% agree with this person.
Fair. Ricky, would you like to move back to X or YouTube?
Oh yeah,
Whatever you want
yeah, I can. Let me see. Oh, there we have it. Crab Feeder, who's also in chat right now. I think the community gets too wrapped up with modernists' views on a medieval style story, me included, by the way. I'll let you go first on this one.
I think yes and no, because I think because you do have, again, with the actual story, it is medieval, like time period centric, and so our values and things like that have shifted since those times, and so us looking at that time period with our own how we look at the world now, it is sometimes we maybe look over it too much. I mean, it's difficult. Like, here's a situation where it's difficult right away. Is like marriage in A Song of Ice and Fire, medieval times. Women, boys, whatever, they were getting married a lot earlier. And that's very much not looked upon the best nowadays. So I don't know. It's hard. Like, that's a really hard question for me to answer because I think that there's a fine line that you walk when you try to judge the books. But I don't know. I'd love to hear your opinions on this, Ricky, because I'm not like set in stone on this.
I think I'm on the same page. Something that really does annoy me is whenever people really idolize, for example, Lyanna and Rhaegar. I think that's just very weird. And even though I have a modernist view on that, I don't think it's wrong to have that. I think if you idolize that, it's there's just something wrong with you. And even going out of your way, which I see other people doing, to really like make excuses for it and make excuses for Rhaegar. It's tough. It's there's a fine line. You have to see it in context. Otherwise, this whole story doesn't make sense. I mean, it is based off of medieval history somewhat, and yeah, it's about
I
idolizing
agree.
and we've talked about this prior. What happens a lot nowadays is, for example, in Mickey 17, we've talked about this prior to going online. I'm a European guy, as you can tell about, because of my accent. I'm from Germany, and I go to the movies to exit the real fucking life.
Yeah.
I don't want to go and see Mark Ruffalo do a Donald Trump impression. I want to leave, this fucking world and go into a different world and see a story that really captivates me. And I don't know, it's just really weird to me to. But there's always a fine line. There's always a fine line of something that fits and something that does not fit. Andor, for example, is doing an amazing job, and it's very political. It's just about whether or not the story itself is political, or if you have Mark Ruffalo doing a Trump impression. Again, I'm not conservative or anything. In fact, I don't even give a fuck about Trump. That's why I'm from Germany. So it's like it takes you out of it. But I don't know how we got here. Let's move on.
All right. Next one I had on here was, this comes from Matt, and they have, George, while being a fantastic writer with a knack for detail, is not the god of secret plots and foreshadowing the fandoms made him out to be. I'd say 70% of fan theories are not true. And while you answer this, Ricky, I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick. I'll be back.
I mean, it would be boring if we read Winds of Winter and everything is already, we know everything. All of these fan theories are right, and I hope that it really surprises us. It wouldn't surprise me if the more outlandish theories, the ones that are really out there, are not true. But then again, those are the ones that kind of put us through the wait for that book. So we'll see. Let's see what you got. What do you say? What are you saying in the chat? George is writing a Dark Ages book, yeah, but he's also writing a book about Vietnam and nukes and love and modern stuff, Yeah, that's fair. I also see the connections between dragons and nuclear weapons. I think that's a very fair, even if it's not literal, it's a very fair comparison. We've had 10 years to speculate something is bound to be right. Yeah, I mean, is it only 10 years now? 2011 was when Dance was. It's almost, we're pushing 15 years, I think. So some of the stuff is bound to be true. I don't think that everything and every turn will surprise us. But then actually seeing it happen will be great. I mean, all those theories that we have about the Battle of Ice, Battle of Fire, Battle of Blood, when it finally comes to fruition, we can finally read the conclusion. Yeah, that's gonna be satisfying. I don't give a fuck about Trump. That, Ricky, is the appropriate opinion for Europeans. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have to have an opinion, really. It's just weird that yeah, don't think about the funny orange man much. I want to talk about Song of Ice and Fire. You're late, so I'm going to fly to you to get my birthday spank. Okay, I think I'm interrupting something. Hi, Ashley. How's it going? Huh?
What did I walk back into?
Oh yeah. I walked straight into that one too. You're late, so I'm going to fly out to you to get my birthday spankings. I have no idea what they're talking about. I think I've interrupted something.
Dakota, if it's your birthday, happy birthday. That's what I'm getting out of that. Ashley, I always dodge you. Sometimes you get cranky. So where did we leave off, Ricky? Where are we at here?
We were talking about how many or how much of the theories will be right. The
I
person
mean,
said that about 70% of all theories would be wrong.
well, I mean, there's just so many theories. So of course that's. I mean, there's so many theories. Everybody has their own theory. Like I don't know. Like it's just because of how long we've waited for books. So many theories have come out. So of course a lot of them are going to be wrong. I don't know.
Hmm. I said that
Um,
the more outlandish ones are bound to be wrong. But those are the ones that kind of, put us through the wait. I think he's fantastic at foreshadowing, but he's also not planning a million secret plots, Yeah, I think he's brilliant at foreshadowing. I think, again, what I said earlier, R+L equals J in itself is a brilliant theory. Or, sorry, a brilliant, it's brilliant setup. Just that.
Agreed.
All right. I'll let you go with the. Oh, or am I? It's my turn.
I think it's your turn.
Alrighty. This one is by Bleb653409. A Game of Thrones is so retconned and outdated from the later books that it's borderline unenjoyable for me at points. Good book, but my least favorite in the main series. That's a hot take, I think.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the show. He had me in the first half.
No. He or she is talking about
Yeah.
the book.
Well, the first book got done dirty. Because this is the take I always had, is that no matter how you rank the books, Game of Thrones should never be last. Maybe that's because I have a big love of Game of Thrones. I think it's some of George's best writing in the entire series. I love the style of Game of Thrones. It's very concise. It's this mystery. And again, it's very different from the rest of the series. Game of Thrones has shorter chapters in terms of the rest of the series. It's just vastly different. It only has a couple of plot lines going on, whereas the rest of the books have tons of plot lines. And I guess some people really like that, or they really don't like that. And of course, as the series develops, certain things, changed, right? Like I don't think the character of young Griff was really concretely in George's mind at that point. Maybe he had some idea that he was going to do some sort of character like that was maybe, related to the Targaryens or something that would play a role later on. But you can kind of tell from the first book that plot was not figured out until later on in the series. So, whereas on one hand, I get the sentiment, I still think the first book is better written than, in my opinion, the last two books in terms of how I enjoy them. I would say for me, it's like third. I'd put Storm and Clash ahead of it, but I don't get on the board with this one. But go ahead, Ricky.
Me neither. I think it's brilliantly written. It has my favorite chapter of all of them, which is Eddard X Tower of Joy. Is my favorite chapter in the whole series. So yeah, not on board with this one.
Not my favorite. Moving on. So we have a comment from Kenshin, and this is another kind of House of the Dragon related one. Daemon was the best choice to be king in House of the Dragon. He would have Dorne and the Triarchy under the Iron Throne within 2 years. The other free cities are saved for his grandson, the young dragon. What do you? Okay, so let's just take it from this point of view, Ricky. Who do you think would have been the best person to have been king, say, or king or queen, like after Viserys, maybe? Because it's tough to say
Oh,
Daemon being king, like at the start of House of the Dragon, because that just wouldn't happen because Viserys was already on the throne.
I mean, I'd say Rhaenys, but that would just result in another war because they wouldn't let it fly.
Yeah.
But the best suited probably Rhaenys. I think even with Daemon, they would have, the Hightower, especially Otto, would have worked to,
Yeah.
would have been an inside job. And the war, is there a point, and where is that point where you could stop it? It's probably years and years and years before that.
I mean, agreed. Like by the time we get to House of the Dragon, it's already kind of too late. Like the lines are already being drawn, And what kind of cements it is when Alicent, gets with Viserys. That's the kind of the thing that's like, okay, now you're tied to the family. You have legitimacy a lot more now. I don't know how to answer this question because Daemon had his good qualities, of course, but he also has his bad qualities. It's what makes him George's favorite, character. I would lean towards Rhaenys, like you said, if we're especially going off of the House of the Dragon version of the characters. If we're going off of Fire and Blood, like I can make an argument down the road that Jace could have been a good king, but there's not enough. Like we just don't know enough about that.
There's such a Jace fanboy.
Jace is a good guy, man. He's a good guy. But yeah, I think that Rhaenys, in terms of how she could have been as a ruler, I think would have been a really great choice. Way better than Viserys.
I'm going with Rhaenys too.
Yeah. But yeah, you want to go back to yours, Ricky? Go back to your
sure. Let me see, what else do we have? What else do we have? We talked about quite a few of them already. So I have no idea if that's meant, if this one's legit or if it's just a troll. Catelyn Stark is a vampire. I guess. This one's by Jerricat. I don't think she's a vampire.
Where did this one even come from? I'm trying to think of like a theory of why you come to that rationalization.
Well, obviously, Catelyn Stark is Roose Bolton, is Bolt-on, is vampire.
Yeah. Got it. Yep, got it.
I have another one. Well, it's goes. It goes with that too. Ned dies at the Tower of Joy, and he was resurrected by Howland Reed. Yeah.
So that's a theory.
That's also one of the theories of all time.
I got a good one for you. I like this one from Ashley. I know Ashley's in the chat. I like this one a lot. So Ashley brought up that Brienne is the younger and more beautiful woman forecasted to strike Cersei down and take all Cersei holds dear. P.S. She wanted to throw this in. All hail Darkstar.
Darkstar. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Your community against me is like the new battle. I keep making friends here. I'm sorry, guys. I'm not too fond of Victorian Greyjoy. I hate Darkstar, and the Freys are fucking weasels. I'm sorry. But I'm fine with you having those opinions, man.
I love the Darkstar.
Yeah. I am of the night. Ooh. Go fuck yourself.
Hey, Darkstar, he
has a cool fucking name. Darkstar.
Actually, losing her shit. I can't wait. So what do you think, just getting beyond the Darkstar stuff, what do you think about Brienne being the person that strikes Cersei down, takes everything that she loves?
I think that's a very, very interesting perspective. That's because she might also have a big impact on Jaime, who I think is gonna end up killing her. So maybe she's a part of that, of taking her down, because she enables that personal growth in Jaime that makes it even possible that he goes that far.
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a very interesting thought.
It's really interesting because I think a lot of the who is going to take down
Greece, you need more friends that don't have family in Argentina. What are you on about? What are you on about? My mom is from Sicily, from Catania, so no Argentinian in me, but I know what are you getting at? No.
Yeah, that's all I'll say is yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a lot of the theories about who could take Cersei down are like really well done. You can come at them from almost any angle. Like Brienne being, it's not like this, like what we always think about is outside beauty. It's, Brienne is this character that has a lot of like inner beauty. She is somebody that is the most knight-like in the story, in a story filled with people that are absolutely horrible. And Brienne being the person that, in a lot of ways, set Jaime on his redemption arc, him trying to become a better person. I think that like just the themes and the discussion points of Brienne being that person that turns Jaime against Cersei, and maybe Jaime is the person that kills her, like you stated. would kind of fulfill that. I do really like this theory. I really like it. It's not the one I predict necessarily. I predict Ariane more. But I do really like this as well.
You make me sick. What have I done, Ashley? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Dark Star is obviously amazing. One of the characters in the hit novel series, A Song of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin.
Ricky, I'll say what she really means to say. Keep Darkstar out of your mouth.
Okay, I mean, sure. The Sword of the Morning arc incoming, huh? That what we're getting at.
All right. Any hot takes you got on your end there, Ricky?
Yeah, Ricky, I only draw my support for you to a certain extent. Jesus, what have I done?
Oh no.
Sometimes I burn my arms so I can get that crispy hand like Victorian. Yeah, very normal.
What is happening, guys? What is happening?
The correct question is what haven't you? I'm sorry, Ashley. Hey, Ashley, listen. Darkstar is one of the characters in the novel that I've read. Yeah. Darkstar is a Song of Ice and Fire's Batman. He's a beast. Ricky, yes, simultaneously. I mean, it's true. My arm is just about gone. Man, I hope I didn't. I mean, I hope I didn't.
Wait, Ghost, why are you burning your arm? I'm confused now. You've got me confused.
What's going on right now?
The chat's on one today.
They're on me. I'm sorry, but it's I've brought this upon myself. I think
you have done this to yourself.
You have done that yourself. Bro, peace. That's was you're supposed to continue, but
I'm sorry. I'm reading hot take. Okay, I'm trying to stay on topic.
The next one's from oh wow. Next one's mine, right?
Yes.
All right. Inca Money 2 says the Red Wedding was a deserved punishment for Rob.
Whatever you answer here, Ricky, will be criticized in chat. Just letting you know.
I mean, hell no. I mean, how's that? Like 15-year-old guy makes stupid decisions, justifies him watching his whole family dying and everyone getting slaughtered at a wedding.
Not to mention all of his men that were killed.
Yeah.
Innocent serving hands that were killed. I mean, Rob definitely, did some wrong things, but does that mean he needs to die the way he did?
Yeah, it's a bit hardcore. 1000% Papa Khan. Yes, praise Super, let's go. It's like those people that are cheering in the cinema when the Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. What are we gonna do? It's like it gives off those vibes here in the chat.
Yeah, I can't say anything. I clapped when Darth Maul killed Qui-Gon in the movies when I went to it. I was like, yeah, you see that move?
That's such an American thing, though, isn't it? Cheering in the cinema and like being loud and noisy.
I'll be honest, I don't really see it that often. Like I've had like one bad movie theater experience like that, but for the most part, I've been lucky. And when I mean I was clapping for Darth Maul, I meant like little one of these, not like obnoxious clap, but yeah, I guess that is an American thing, but I don't know.
I'm not sure. I'm talking on my ass right now. I have no idea if this American thing, but like the whole chicken chalky thing, kind of crazy.
Yeah, didn't go see that movie, so I heard about it.
Yeah, I refuse to watch it too.
Since we're on the phrase, and we might as well hit this one while we're at it. Dakota, aka Papa Khan, put this hot take in there. Dorne should have been turned to glass. Lamprey pie sounds disgusting. House Frey did nothing wrong, and the Starks aren't as honorable as everyone says.
I like the last one a lot. And I would be so down for more complex Starks. Because I think it's pretty misplaced to have entire houses be judged differently than any of the other ones. I think like we've talked about with Rob, there was some wrongs there that you can criticize him about, and we'll see how Arya develops. I'm definitely not imagining myself cheering whenever she goes on a killing spree. It's quite sad. It's not something that should be celebrated.
So what you're saying is we shouldn't judge people by their house names. So translation for the chat, all of House Frey should not be, looked at for the sins of other people, is what you're trying to say.
Definitely. Oh, thank you for
That was the translation for chat.
No, but I think I don't like Game of Thrones' portrayal of the phrase.
Yeah.
Like that whole scene of Arya killing everyone was just like, am I supposed to cheer? Does everyone deserve that?
No.
And yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I also want to talk about one other thing on here before we move on. I mentioned to you this before we started streaming, but Dakota also mentioned that Dorne should have been turned to glass. Here's what I'll say about Dorne. I think some of the biggest plot holes is how Dorne survived the first conquest of Dorne with Aegon. I just don't understand how they survived. Like, they were literally getting no imported food into their country. Any food that they could have grown that wasn't in a cave was being burned. Their people literally lost, like, I think over half their population. Like, I don't understand how they even functioned as a society. But that's for a whole nother stream.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, they have to nerf the Targaryens at some point.
Yeah, they do.
The phrase in the show are weasels. Yeah. I'm not a fan of their portrayal of the phrase. It's very one-sided. One character is every character. Let's see. Do we have another one from Twitter? Red Wedding. Gone through a lot of them already.
I've got...
There, I have one.
A couple more whenever you're done.
Danny12 says, Rhaegar gets too villainized. Tywin sent the order, and the Mountain and Sir Armory Lorch murdered the 3 kids. Rhaegar had left them safe in Dragonstone. He didn't have a way of knowing Elia and the kids were summoned back to King's Landing. He's blameless in this one, I think.
I disagree with this one.
In
terms of Rhaegar being too villainized, I mean, I think Rhaegar, there's a good amount of people that still like the character of Rhaegar. Like, it's not like he's the most hated character in the community. He's not. Like, I can tell you right now, he's not. So, but then to even go forward, why we villainize the character, his wife, who, again, it was Elia, gave him 2 kids, and he basically just like, you can't produce any more children. I guess I'm just going to leave now and go after some younger woman and run away with her. And then this whole war starts, and here I am just fucking around in this tower. I mean, like, the only thing that, in my opinion, redeems a little bit of Rhaegar is if all of his actions is what leads to, the living surviving. Like, that is what allowed Jon to become who he is and all that stuff. But even then, it's like, do the ends justify the means? Like, Rhaegar did a lot of stuff that was extremely dumb, that got thousands of people killed. I don't know. I think that he's villainized.
We don't have the full picture to really definitively say how much of a douchebag he is. I think he's one, regardless of what we are going to learn. I just hate when he gets idolized. I really don't see that. Oh, he's such a good singer and he did that, and I don't really agree with that. Ashley wants us to talk about Dark Vengeance. So what's the deal there?
Ooh, okay. So I actually have this video for Ashley will enjoy this. I actually have this video recorded for this week. But so going back to the first book when we were talking about it, there's just some. It's really sus the way that Benjen's plotline is established. Like with Jon going to the wall. The first time we see Benjen, it's Jon is extremely drunk, like the most drunk he's ever been in his life. Like he's stumbling around, he's slurring his words, and the conversation is just really, really weird. It starts as like, Benjen being like, "Oh yeah, we could use a man like you on the wall and stuff like that." And then John's like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to do that," right? In this drunken state. And then the whole conversation just kind of plays out as like, oh, Benjen's obviously saying, Jon, you can't do this thing. And then Jon, obviously being a teenager, he's going to be like, yeah, I want to go to the wall, all that stuff. And so Benjen the whole time is telling Jon, he shouldn't go to the wall. He doesn't know what he's giving up. He doesn't understand all these things. But then literally later on, we hear Benjen tells Lewin that Jon should go to the wall. Like that's what he wants. Even though Jon told Benjen if he was going to do it, bring it up directly to Ned. Like it's very suspicious the way his actions go. Because then when we get to the wall, Benjen is very cold to Jon. It gets so bad that Jon imagines Benjen dead and he feels guilty about that. So like that's where the theory comes from. It's a very mysterious theory on the terms of maybe that Benjen is getting back at Ned for Ned possibly sending Benjen to the wall over stuff with Leon and Rhaegar and maybe the things Benjen did or did not know. So it's based on that. There's not a lot of concrete to like prove that is, but there's just a lot of suspicious actions.
I like that because it immediately plays with that. Oh, the Starks are so honorable.
Yeah.
There's a little backstabbing, a little infighting. I like that a lot. When is that video gonna come out?
It'll be either Wednesday or Friday. I'm not sure.
Awesome.
I'll probably edit it tonight.
Hey, that's a really cool idea.
Yeah, it was brought. This is why I do like streams because sometimes like, that whole video idea, whole stream, me researching that came from stream. So that was got to give credit to my stream. That was a really good talking point. I really enjoyed making that video.
Would be very complex.
Yeah.
And then also once Jon is at the wall, he's kind of not really neglected, but very much brought to toned down and you're here now, chill. Which is kind of like broken promise
like
or something.
Benjen was like selling the
yeah.
wall to Jon. It feels like, and then all of a sudden when he gets there, it's like, well, I don't need to sell it to you anymore. You're here. Like, and it just kind of goes into Jon's whole rationale. Like Jon feels abandoned at the wall. Nobody told him what it was like outside of like Tyrion. So I don't know. I just think it's a very fascinating topic.
That's really cool. I have I don't think I have any more from Twitter. We have one by we do. Lisa Velan says, I think Aegon is the real Aegon. I don't think that's a hot take. I think in turn...
I would say it's a hot take.
I don't think so, because in turn we take...
The community does think it, but I think that it has a lot of evidence to back up that he is. So I feel like in terms of the hot take, I think a lot of the community would be against the take, but I don't think the take is like outlandish at all. Like I think it's actually like there's a lot of evidence to justify, yeah, this could be the case.
I think he is. I think Aegon is Aegon. But I also think that us taking Aegon for granted is a bit, it's one of those theories where we're like, yeah, it's definitely like that, and there's no chance, and we all take it for granted. Those are the kind of things that aren't really, we take them for granted, but in fact we just don't know. Which is why Wins is going to be interesting.
And I mean, there's a lot of evidence to. I'm not the freshest on the theory because I haven't covered the flip side of the Aegon theory in like a good amount of time now. But there is stuff just like Varys's last speech that he has in Dance of Dragons with Kevin. It's like, well, why is Varys very publicly saying that this is Aegon in terms to Kevin when, well, if this is a dying man, you don't necessarily need to be saying Aegon and all that stuff. And there's counter arguments to both sides. They both intertwine each other, but the counter argument is, well, it's it's the Red Keep, it's King's Landing. You don't know who's listening. You might as well just be safe. But yeah, I don't think it's a hot take at all. I think very easily could be the truth.
Could be
I
the
hope
case,
not.
yeah.
I hope not, but I'd rather him be a Blackfire. I think it's way more interesting for the story.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
All right, I have a couple more on YouTube, so I'll start with this one from Normal Ash. They say, "I hope that Daenerys proves herself as Azor Ahai and sacrifices herself to save Westeros from the Whites instead of going on the Mad Queen arc. We've already seen a very poorly executed Mad Queen arc already, and we already expect the books to follow through on it, albeit in a better way. But the show has completely ruined the Mad Queen arc for me. If anything, it'd be more interesting twist if post Resurrection." Jon was more involved in the politics of Westeros, becoming a Mad King in the effort to protect Westeros from the Whites and losing his purpose after the conflict is gone. So I guess the hot take is don't want to see Daenerys go Mad Queen again.
I don't think that's a hot take, and I would agree with a lot of what was said, apart from oh, by the way, instead of Daenerys, it's now Jon who goes mad. I think I think you don't need a mad queen, but it would be fun if that's the narrative, because I personally believe that she is gonna ignite the wildfire underneath the city accidentally, and that might in turn fuck up her mind a bit. But the propaganda by the small folk all throughout Westeros would be that she just blew King's Landing up and she's a mad queen. I expect if something like that happens, it to be very nuanced, very complex, and not out of nowhere and just full on. Oh yeah, I'm gonna nuke a city now, even though I'm known for freeing slaves and being for liberty and the small folk and the you know the small people. So yeah, I'm mixed on that one because I don't see Jon. I would like Jon to change, and I hope, not hope, but I think he might lose his POV status, and that might be interesting. But him going mad is a bit far fetched. Yeah, accidentally. Papa Khan. I think that might be really interesting if she burns something and it ignites the wildfire. That would be more interesting than her just willingly nuking it because she wants to sit on the throne.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be more about like the perception of Daenerys more than it'll be like I think Daenerys will be going through her own struggles, of course, but I just think if we look at how Daenerys will be viewed coming back to Westeros in terms of, young Griff will probably be on the throne already by the time she comes over. And I think the faith will probably be behind young Griff. I think the small folk will probably be much more behind young Griff. And so you have Daenerys coming over as this kind of foreign invader. You've already seen, rumors like she killed her brother and all that stuff. You don't know the context if you're a small folk person. Why did she do that? Her bringing over the Dothraki and, sellswords and all this stuff. Like her, I feel like people are going to perceive him already in a bad light. So if an accident like what you're suggesting happens, yeah, obviously people are going to just go, oh, yeah, she blew up King's Landing. She killed all these innocent people for
Propaganda,
what? Yeah. So, I like that idea. Again, I don't really like the idea of like it becoming mad Jon Snow type. I like the idea of like Jon becoming a bit more like Stoneheart like, but not fully
ruthless,
Stoneheart.
more like a wildling, embracing that side of him.
Yeah, agreed. We have another one here, very short one. By Little You. Missandei's childness is an act.
We've talked about this one prior to the stream. She's 10. What do you mean it's an act? Because and you've mentioned this because was it Barristan keeps saying that, oh, she's so wise for age or whatever. Man, what's an act? That's she's fucking 10.
Yeah. If you want a true explanation of what people would argue for the theory is, I did make a video on this, but it's
okay.
Daenerys. I think Daenerys mentioned it once or twice in her first couple of meetings with Missandei about how she's wise beyond her years, and then Barristan also notes it. I think Barristan notes it in his POV chapters at the end of A Dance with Dragons. The problem with it, because the idea is that she's part of the Children of the Forest, is kind of where this theory goes, is that she doesn't look like a child of the forest outside of maybe her eyes. I don't know. It's a lot of okay. We're taking a
15
couple of
years.
quotes
This
and
book
we're
needs
just
to come
like,
out, man.
yeah.
I'm sorry for
That's
interrupting.
that's basically the point of it. It's like there's not like a lot of evidence to really suggest that that's the case outside of a couple things.
Glamour. It's the next one, right? It's just
Yeah.
glamour. Quaif
Yeah.
is Missandei.
Yep.
That's why
Exactly.
Missandei is so wise. Just made that one up. I'm sure it's out there in some capacity.
Probably. I mean, yeah. Yeah. Glamours are basically for every character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a question in chat.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to find it. It was specifically. Where is it now? Ah. Now I've lost it again. Let me see. Ah, there it is. By Ghost. I hate talking about this topic, but how do you think young Griff will die? Grease, Ricky. I think Daenerys will get rid of him. I think I can see young Griff sitting on the Iron Throne, and then Dany coming over, and they have a little, like, I mean, it's not a dance of the dragons really, because young Griff has no dragon. I think so. I think one of them is gonna die before making it to Westeros. I don't think the Dragonheart is gonna go the way that we want.
Have a Dance of Dragons if there's no dragons. Like I know it just okay, it's Targaryens, but it's like
Yeah.
I don't know. That doesn't really feel like like my idea would be okay if we're gonna make it another Dance of the Dragons, like legitly. Well, Daenerys can't control her other dragons, and she's shown that she's able to very literally kind of control Drogon to an extent. But we're not going to see Daenerys with her other dragons for, you would assume, bulk majority of Winds of Winter. So, I mean, maybe young Griff, having Blackfire or Targaryen blood doesn't matter. Both have a lot of Targaryen blood, whichever side you want to go with. Maybe he tames a dragon. Maybe he has the will. Maybe he pulls an Aemond moment and just takes one of them. I don't know. I don't think it's the worst idea in the world. It's just how does Aegon get close to a dragon? Like when is that going to happen? But yeah, I do agree with you though. I think the way he goes down is through Daenerys. I think that just makes the most sense.
Yeah, that's what I think is gonna go down with that storyline. You have another one.
I have a couple from the same person.
Ooh,
so
let's go.
We'll go through them here. So the Targ coin says for the first one, Jon is going to be Sansa's Targaryen suitor by the end of the series, in line with the Ashford theory. So not Fagon.
And the evidence is, well, there was a love triangle in the original outline by George R. R. Martin, and now we have to ship Jon with his siblings again.
I hate that. I hate that.
Yeah. And also, I think if anything, Sansa has a lot of parallels to the Virgin Queen, Queen Elizabeth I, in that I think she will end the series as the literal Virgin Queen.
Yeah.
And I don't think she'll marry. By the end of it, I don't see Sansa being happily married to some dude, and especially not Jon.
It just fits into her character so well. Like she's been used as a pawn too many times by the end of the story for her to have her own freedom, have her own choices, and I think that would reflect nicely if she doesn't marry somebody else, especially Jon in this case. But yeah. So moving on, we then have Rhaena is a more interesting and complex character on page and screen than Baela. She's just not given nearly as much attention in Fire and Blood.
That's fair. That's fair.
I really don't have a strong opinion on that. Like,
me neither. I think
kind of interchangeable, to be honest.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah, I don't think a hot take at all. I think that justified in that. Next hot take from the same person. Gendry being Cersei's firstborn son in the show canon is a good theory, and a legitimized Gendry sitting the Iron Throne when Daenerys arrived would have made for interesting television, even if just fan fiction.
Again, this is based off of one sentence in the show where Cersei and Kat talk about a brown-haired boy. Good read. Made for a lot of good videos back in the day. Like back in the day. Those were the kind of theories that I think Red Team Review was big on that when he started out. I think he made a video on that, and that really like catapulted his channel and everything. If I remember it correctly, that must have been in like 2014, 2015.
I am very unfamiliar with this theory, especially for the show. One thing that like comes to mind is that doesn't Gendry talk about his mother at some point in the show? Like he just remembers her having some sort of, I don't remember if he says like Lannister hair color or not, but I feel like I remember like him having just a throwaway line where he's like with Melisandre, and it's like, I don't remember my mother. She had this kind of hair or whatever. But
It's based
I don't
off.
remember.
It's the other way around, where Cersei comforts Cat after Bran is in a
Yeah, so I remember
coma,
that part. Yeah, I
and
remember
that's
that
where
part.
this theory is what it's based on. I like how Ricky says catapulted. I'm so anxious about my accent and everything all the time. So this is the direct result of it, I think. Not my first language, you know. Be kind.
So Preston says that he says she has yellow hair in the show.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's like I vaguely remember it. I just don't remember. I'm pretty sure that like that what I'm remembering is something that happens in season 3, I think.
That was a huge theory back in the day. Really was.
Yeah, it was before my time, unfortunately. But yeah. So last one we got Ricky,
Hmm.
for YouTube. Since House of the Dragon whitewashed Rhaenyra, and she also isn't the reason behind much of Blood and Cheese, the only cruel act they can really make her do is brothel queens, and I'm not opposed to it depending on how it's portrayed. It solely hinges on Alicent's reaction after House of the Dragon spoiler. Okay, this is your warning. Jace's death, but seeing how she essentially turned cloak in season 2, episode 8, I highly doubt Rhaenyra would ever do something so horrible to her. On the flip side, I'm also Team Rhaenyra, sentencing Rhaena to death at some point since she is absorbing the Nettles storyline. Thoughts on all of that, Ricky?
I think that's completely off the table now. I think House of the Dragon will even go that far as Rhaenyra and Alicent fleeing King's Landing together. And then Alicent is pretty much our POV of spoiler 1, 2, 3, Rhaenyra's death, and that's a huge emotional scene where Alicent. I think Alicent will even go as far as poisoning Aegon and herself. That's the way I see the show going forward. And what was the other part? Was Rhaena? I think that is gonna be the complexity is Rhaenyra sentencing Rhaena to death when that splits up the relationship with her and Daemon, because obviously Daemon and Rhaena are probably gonna be very close to each other, and they're gonna have a real good relationship, and yeah. So Ricky, speculate on House of the Dragon all you want. I'm not gonna watch the shit. I'm gonna watch it. I'm just not gonna review it anymore. I might like it. I might not. I truly don't care. Back in the day, I always I woke up at 3 a.m. or I stayed up until 3 a.m. to watch it. That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen again. I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm tired.
I'm not as strong as I once was, as Bobby B would say. I don't know. I mean, House of Dragon Rhaenyra questions. I don't know even what to say about it anymore. I
Well,
feel like
what do you
people know
think?
my thoughts. I don't know.
Well, what
Rhaenyra is not the same character to me anymore. But
Well, what do you think about the idea that she and Alicent are gonna flee King's Landing, and then Alicent is gonna witness Aegon toasting her, And then she kills
It's very
Aegon.
likely going to happen. I think
I
it's very
think so
likely going
too.
to happen because House of the Dragon is very scared to have Alicent not be part of the main story front and center. Like, that's what season 2 showed me. Season 2 showed me that they were unwilling to let Alicent fade to the
Hmm.
background a bit and let other characters start to take over the narrative.
I
We
don't
should have
think
seen more with Daemon,
that
for
is the thing.
instance.
I don't think it's a problem to have those two characters as the center and the POV of that show. That's an interesting perspective. I just think that making Alicent out to be, changing her entire motives, her entire everything about Alicent, I think that was not the right move to do. But yeah.
I mean, like, I agree. Like, you can do the Alicent Rhaenyra thing, but the reason I wouldn't is just because the problem with the source material is Alicent is not really that important of a character once the war starts. So, like the show has to do, it has to figure out, okay, how do we keep Alicent as a main character while keeping the narrative, still going and it still all making sense. And so they ran into issues with, okay, well, we want Alicent and Rhaenyra to meet up again. So they meet up in episode 3. We have to have them meet up again in the season finale. And these are things they had to do, but those are things that they came up with to try and keep Alicent as a main story character. And the times where we don't see that, notably episode 7 specifically, Alicent's not doing a whole lot. Like, we're seeing a lot of her on screen, and there's just not a lot there, right? We're seeing her kind of reflecting on stuff that's happened, but that feels like what she does a lot throughout the season. It's just reflecting on things. It's her walking, or it's her just having these facial expressions to the camera, which is like, it's good at the beginning of the season because it shows you the character is growing and things like that. But when it becomes almost the only thing that's happening with the character throughout majority of the season outside of like the Rhaenyra and Alicent stuff, that's why I think that they should have faded from the character of Alicent,
Yeah.
because you could have then made it to where you have characters like Aegon, who obviously was a main stage of the first half of the season, which was great. And then bringing in, Aemond, where he is becoming the main powerhouse of the green side of things. They were trying to do something with him taking out a village or whatever. It's one of our biggest criticisms of the show in season 2. I think that they could have taken some of that time and given it more to him specifically. I think that would have helped him be more of an interesting villain or an interesting character just in general. Because now what they've done is they've pretty much made a character that's just, I don't understand how this character functions given the setup to where we are now.
I think they could have kept the, you know, the POV of or the main, or the story being told through Alicent and Rhaenyra. It's just that they should have, that you wouldn't have to change Alicent's entire character.
Yeah.
What I would have loved to see is her connecting with Helena, and there are themes like grief and loss that would have been made for great opportunities for scenes, and you could have really explored that. And if you really want to give her even more screen time, do more scenes like that with Aegon as well. Have her be at the small council and have her plot and have her begin to really, or not even begin, but have her hate Rhaenyra and her team. That would have been the more interesting route for me. Is these two women at odds with each other instead of whatever this is now.
Or even, I mean, like, going as far as like what they've kind of seemed like they were setting up with Otto is just have maybe Alicent and Otto then take on the perspective of what's going on down south with Daeron, her other son. I think that, yeah, like, I think that it was a good in theory, right? Keep Alicent as a main character and tell it through her point of view, but you've got to execute it well. And I just don't think that the execution really was there in season 2.
Yeah, definitely wasn't in my opinion either. Definitely wasn't in my opinion.
That's all the hot takes though that I have. So
I think we can wrap this up then. That was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun. All of those hot takes. We might do a second part, who knows? Definitely looking forward to it. Thank you, Eric, once again for joining me. on my
No
channel
problem.
today. Thanks, guys, for being so active today in the chat. I knew I got on some of your nerves, but I had a great time, and thank you. We'll see each other in June, and take care, and see you later.
Bye, guys.